My numpad is assembled and working, and just to prove that it's working, I will tap out, see if I can do this. You can see it. Look at my little Discord chat there. 1, 2, I need numlock on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you can see that works. Plus, they all work. Even backspace works, right? And there's also, I've got some macros on there just to test with, so if I hold down plus, it should say 100. That's just a tap and hold. And another nice one that I've got is, see this little calculator icon there that didn't turn out so well? I'm going to have to come up with something better for that, but if I tap and hold the escape key, it should launch the calculator. There we go. Speed crunch. That's my calculator. So that actually works. So yeah, macros work. The only thing I haven't got working is I haven't got the cording working, because that's a different pull request that hasn't been merged into Keyboard yet. I'm not too fond of how these larger keys turned out, and the stabilizers I've got here are for 3.5mm travel, and I got to reprint those. I'm printing them now. But what I think I'm going to do is reprint all these, but with gray and black, and also black and white. Because I don't think having the black legends with this neon color kind of doesn't look as nice. I think this neon color looks nice when it's got a plain keycap like that, instead of having the legend on there, because it kind of like darkens it a bit. It doesn't look as nice. And also, it doesn't really, when you're doing the inverse, this doesn't look nice at all, really, because there's not enough light getting in there. So it just kind of looks like meh. And I got to fix a couple things like this. Oh, it should be big like these. The plus should be bigger. And that's supposed to be a little gamepad icon. And this is a tree. That should be bigger too. And, it's an enter key, but since I shortened it to ent, I figured it would be good to have an actual ent on there, an ent icon. And I thought about adding front-facing legends too, but I wouldn't know what to put. I haven't really started to program this with macros and whatnot. But let's talk about my switch on the inside here and how it works for just a second. This is the same exact type of switch that I've got in here. They're all 4mm of travel except for the one, which I just noticed like a minute ago. You can see it's just a 0.5mm shorter than the others. So I got to print out another one of those to replace it. This one's also 3.5mm for reference. So this one has 0.3 printed on the side. What does that mean? Well, my switch is parametric, right? So this is the magnet gap, right? So if you look at the stem closely, see how thick the top part is? See how it's just a smidge thicker than the bottom part? That's 0.3mm added to the top of the stem, which means that there's going to be, other than the magnet wall thickness, there's going to be 0.3mm added to the distance, the resting distance between that top magnet there, that's blue, I sharpened it blue, and the magnet in the stem. So that's 0.3mm, and what that does is that controls the initial downward force required to move the switch. So if you make that larger, the switch, the body actually makes itself slightly bigger too, so you don't lose any travel, which is nice. And now the other part of my switch, that's the magnetic separation part of the switch. There's also the magnetic levitation part, which is this clear part up top there under the keycap. And what that is it's an opposing magnet. So when you press down on it, this one wants to push it back up, right? So this one wants to pull back up to the magnet, and the one under the keycap wants to push away. So it's both magnetic separation and magnetic levitation simultaneously, and it feels fantastic. It's got a very tactile feel to it. The tactility starts at basically 0.0mm. So it's an immediate tactility. And you should be able to notice it if I just start pressing some keys here. I'm sending lots of... if I accidentally send a bunch of numbers to Discord, I apologize, guys. And you see I've got my black pill board here. There's a hole here that you might be wondering about. That's for a rotary encoder, but I haven't designed that yet. So it's just a hole for now. But yeah, this is what it sounds like. These these don't sound right because they're not the right size. And also, I kind of messed up with these keycaps too. See how the you can kind of see the OpenSCAD resolution there? I forgot. I still had it kind of in draft mode when I rendered these. That's why you can kind of see that. Not that it really, you know, you can only see it in this kind of light, this bright flashlight I got going on here. Normally you wouldn't see that, so it doesn't matter all that much. But you can hear the keys. They all sound pretty good. And numlock works, obviously. I showed that a moment ago. Tab, backspace, FN key. I actually haven't programmed any of the second layer at all yet because I don't really know what to put. Probably just a bunch of macros. I was going to make it so that if you press FN and 1, it's F1, FN, F2, it's F2, F3, F4, and just turn it into like a function key modifier. But I don't know. Any suggestions? I'm open. But yeah, my numpad, it works. It works great, actually. I'm very satisfied with how this feels. I think it's time to make a full-size keyb. Yeah. And I'll make sure it has an any key. You know. And this is the old switch design with the sideways magnet. This switch design, if you couldn't tell, it has the magnet all the way inside. So this adds about 2 millimeters to the height of the body of the switch, but it's totally worth it for this magnetic levitation and separation mechanism. Totally worth it. And if you do start putting my switches together, I do recommend marking all of your magnets with a Sharpie. So blue means south, I think. I forget what the universal magnet coloring scheme is. But yeah, that's basically the blue side is the one you want facing the Hall effect sensor. And I can't do this with one hand, but I'll try. I can't really do it anyway because the debugger's plugged in. But this lifts right off, and you can take this whole thing over to the sink if you want and just scrub it down and under soap and water because there's no electronics here in this top plate at all. It's just a magnet. It's 3 magnets really, and they don't care about the water. They're coated in nickel plating, so they're not going to care. You can wash it in the sink and bring it back and just plop it right back down. Now I made a mistake when I soldered this blue pill. Don't make my mistake. I put 90-degree headers on there, and I think that's what it comes with. It comes with headers that go out the side. Get the ones that stick out the top if you're going to be debugging it. You can program the black pill over USB, though. I only use that because I'm programming in Rust, and I want to actually be able to use OpenOCD and debug, and that's also how I flash it. But when I finally release this, you'll be able to do everything with just the USB port. You won't even need these headers, but they are nice for debugging and programming. So there you have it. That's my numpad, and this is what it sounds like. This one doesn't have a stabilizer. That's what I'm printing right now. See, it's just empty holes, so it's a little wobbly. This one does, but it's not the right size, so it's not. It doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't sound quite right. And I don't think I put the this little part on here. See, that's the thing that goes. This is the part that goes under the stem. And originally I had it in this little flimsy thing, but I gave it, I made it a little bit more hefty with these with this square hole opening, because it was breaking basically over time. PETG doesn't like to be bent repeatedly, and the strength of the magnets was enough that it was doing this and this and this, and eventually it would break. So I made it a little bit more rigid so it would last a lot longer. And the plan is to eventually make it so that my keycap playground can make magnets with this can make keycaps with this little magnet holder built into them, so you don't need this mechanism if you're printing out one of a keycap using my built-in mechanism. But it's not really intrusive. This is, for reference, this is 0.4 millimeters that you lose from your stem. But of course, you can just add 0.4 millimeters to the length of the cherry part of the stem, the little cross, and then you won't actually lose anything. But in my testing, losing 0.4 millimeters of height on the stem didn't make a damn difference. So, as far as like how well the keycap gets held on or anything like that. So I'm not even going to bother, really. I'm just going to use my normal switches, plop this on there, and go to town. So that's the latest and greatest as far as my key switches go, and it really does feel freaking fantastic. I have a whole lot of work to do in the firmware, but the key switch itself, I think, is pretty much done. And I'll be posting soon some pretty big improvements to my keycap playground. in regards to printing sideways keys like this that are long, because I noticed that my stem supports weren't working right for sideways keys. They worked fine for these, but I fixed a bug with that and also made some minor improvements on the underside of keycaps. But that's not really important for this video. This video is all about my awesome numpad, and I've got 5 more of these PCBs, so I'm definitely going to be making 5 numpads, and maybe I'll have a little giveaway, or if someone wants to knows a good reviewer that people actually go to for keyboard switch reviews or something like that, maybe I'll send them one. I'm open to suggestions.